Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guest today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back to some more bite-sized business advice, and I'm excited for today's episode. We're talking about scaling your business beyond where it is now. So this is what I typically find. See if this resonates with you, the listener. You start a business from nothing, you grow it, and then you get stuck. And you're like, what is that next step to get past where I am at? Well, I'll give you a hint. It is not doing more of the same. And we're going to unpack that today with a very special guest who's grown multiple businesses and right now is in the middle of growing a franchise nationwide to a boatload of locations. I'll let him tell you how many locations it is, but it's a lot. So let's figure this out. How do we grow our business? Brigham Dallas, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Hey, pleasure to be on your show, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to have you here. I think franchising is so cool. We've had a couple of other franchise CEOs and founders on this show. Every story is unique, and this has got to be one of the hardest businesses to scale because you have to rely on other people to do it well. There's no, well, I'll just muscle through it myself, right? So what made you pick the franchising route? And tell me give me the background of your company, Hello Sugar, too, at the same time.
Yeah, so I'll start with the franchising route and why I picked it. I had a good business, Hello Sugar. We do Brazilian waxing and sugaring. So we wax vaginas. That's what we do for a living.
Let's just put it out there, right?
Let's just put it out there. Why not? And so, yeah, 90% of our clients are females. It's a full body salon, but predominantly Brazilian area. I started the business because the economics were good. You have repeat clients. You have estheticians looking for a career and not just a job. They want to be in this for a long time. You have a membership model, which is always nice for creating better, stronger enterprise value and multiples. And it was relatively a large market, so I could do multiple locations. So all of these things check boxes for me of what I was looking for in a business. I was teaching at a university, and I taught a class that I came up with called How to Start a Six-Figure Income for $3,000 or Less. And so I codified a bunch of business principles and was teaching this. And I just felt like helping people start businesses was my calling. And I wanted to be involved in that for the rest of my life. And franchising just seemed like the next good fit. It was a marriage of teaching people to start businesses and applying that to the business that I'm in already. And that's how I got started.
That's really interesting. I actually have a very similar background. For the listeners of the show, they know this, but I wanted to do the same thing. And I franchised my last business, ended up walking away because I started to go down the path of chasing the money rather than helping the people. And it started to bite me in the butt. And I knew that just wasn't it. It sounds like you are still on the path of helping people start and grow businesses, which is phenomenal. And I'm curious though, because from starting a six-figure income with $3,000 is one thing. That's a hard task. I'm not going to say it's easy, but growing a franchise brand nationwide, scaling from 6 to 7, 7 to 8 figures and beyond, that is a much bigger animal. And I kind of want to unpack this too, because how do you help your locations, your franchisees continue to scale? And what are the things that you personally have in place to scale your company past that 7 and 8 figure mark?
Yeah, so just a little bit of background with Hello Sugar. So I own 15 locations in the Phoenix Valley. We do about 10 million revenue a year. And the salon franchise, we started in 2021. So it's been 3 years and we're at 90 locations opened to date. So there's been a lot of growth over the past 3 years. And the growth of a franchise is exponential. It follows similar to a hockey stick approach. So the first couple of franchises we opened, the first 2 I paid for myself to open. I didn't want somebody else to put their money in it to fail. So I picked estheticians that were actually in the salon and I helped them open their salons. And the next 2 franchisees were really close friends. And I did it with them. So they opened in 2 different markets and I opened in another market, and we just went out figuring it out together. And so for a franchisor perspective, figure that the first 5 or so that you do, you're essentially just running their business for them. You've got to make sure that it's right. If those fail, if those don't build money for the like produce a lot of revenue and profits, you're dead in the water. Just period. You're dead in the water. And so it's really easy to sell a bunch of locations off of your current business. But then if those locations, the first round don't do well, you're out. And so it was just a matter of, I now went from one business that like was not a lot of work to like 4 brand new businesses were a ton of stress, and trying to figure those out at the same time. Like it was a lot. It was a lot the first year. And then you run into a finance problem of not having enough money, because the franchise is not going to be able to pay for whatever things you guys need to develop, your legal fees, your accounting fees, the technology you need to run a franchise. It's never there in the beginning. And so how do you scale but not go into a tremendous amount of debt? That's a very challenging a financial balancing act.
Yeah, that doesn't seem easy or fun. And it makes sense though, because it's like you have to care so much, because if you don't, it's dead. Nobody's going to invest in a brand that's not making money, especially if there's only 2 or 3 non-franchisor owned locations. So talk to me about the stress of those first couple months, years, and when did it really start to pick up with independent franchisee sales after that?
Yeah, so I mean, the first year of sales was all my inner circle. It was people that I just knew or had a good relationship with, and I would present this as like, hey, this is what's happening. And in franchising, it's just storytelling. So, hey, I've got this person. This is how they started. This is how much they're making right now. Does that interest you? And then people would have a longer discussion. They'd come out for discovery day, and that's how I got my initial sales. After the first year, I ran out of my network, and then we started doing shows. We did podcasts, and we did. We went to a couple of networks to help find new leads and stuff to come in, and that was the path from there on out. But I think about your audience. Not everyone's doing franchising at franchisor level, but very similar principles, right? Like you think about your business and you say, okay, I want to get to this goal. I want to get to $1 million. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, I believe that I could do it if I sold this many things. Okay, well, how do I sell this many things? So we're just doing first principle engineering here. So we say, okay, I believe that if I go down this route and I spend this much on advertising, I can get this many sales. Then you go and test that hypothesis. And as you test it, you start to see if this is right or wrong, and you pivot multiple ideas of that testing phase. And I think sometimes we get so locked up on the ideas themselves of like, okay, this is the only way to do it. I've got to go down this route. I've got to spend all my time and resources here. And if it doesn't work, we're like, well, I just got to keep going, right? Well, in franchising and just like with startup businesses, this is the principle here. It's, pick an idea, test it, pivot fast, test a different idea, pivot fast until you find what works, and then go from there. And so what I remember is like those first iterations of starting franchises, the gap between progression was incrementally large. So the first 2 that we started compared to the next 3, we had massive amounts of hypotheses that we tested and changed about the system. For example, how many estheticians do we hire? How close do we put locations together? How much do we invest in a startup and like running the location like from day one? Or do we do this as a slow approach and gradually build clients? Like, what's the best approach to opening these things? How much do we rely on digital advertising versus print advertising and media? All of these hypotheses we set out, we test, and then we pivot if they don't work. And I think that's the same thing for your businesses as well. Like you just got to keep testing and testing different things fast.
I mean, that's a great mindset to have too. And what I love about franchising is even if someone doesn't go into franchise their business, I firmly believe you should still run your business like you would. And what I mean by that is because if you are going to hand a playbook to somebody of how to duplicate this business and run it pretty much without you and make decisions, that gives you the ultimate freedom as a business owner to step away from that business, to get your time back. If you have that level of operational efficiency and scalability, you can do so much. And I think that's what everybody gets into business to do. So what are some of the things, like how did you approach that process, going from your personal locations, your 15 locations, to then saying, I need to make this repeatable and investable. Because if you want to franchise or sell or anything in between, like it has to be there to some degree. What was that path for you? How'd you approach it?
I talked to this is interesting. I talked to an appraiser of businesses, and I asked him, like, what changes the multiple for the business? Like, how do you get a higher multiple out of the business that you're in? And there's some interesting things to unpack here. He said, number one is membership models. Membership models get a better multiple. So positioning your company as a membership versus a package sales, that's like, top of line. Number two is how involved are you in the business? So Brandon, just to your point there, how do you get yourself out of the business by creating the proper systems? Generally speaking, there's going to be a couple things that are going to be tough for a business owner. Number one is you're going to have to fire your manager. The person that you started with is not the person that will run the business when it's at a larger scale. And that's the person that you've given so much time and attention to. And you got to do it. But you feel so loyal to that person that you feel like you can't do that. Fire manager is probably going to be the next step. And it's hard to say that, but you really need a gut check on this. And putting somebody in place that can run it at the caliber of you, that's going to be the next step. And then the third thing that he said was find a total addressable market that's large, right? So with Hello Sugar, I can, in Phoenix alone, there's 5 million people. I could put 20 salons, and 20 salons can make around $2 million to $3 million of profit with 20 salons. And so I'm at 15 salons right now. Our profits are close to 2 million as we speak. And I think we can get to 3 million. So anyway, so the total addressable market, being able to scale is another big multiple. But I've been obsessed with this question my whole career is, I wake up in the morning and I ask myself, what do I need to do today? And then I ask myself, how do I never do this task again? And I go about building systems that help me get out of that task and operation. So I look at things into two different buckets. One is growth of a company, and one is operations of the company. And a CEO that spends most of his time on the operations, we fall mainly because it's easy. And so as I've been building this company, I just tried to continually put people into place, put systems into place to take myself completely removed out of the system.
That's fascinating. Usually I end these episodes with asking what's a powerful question that you want the listener to ask until they get a powerful answer. And I think you beat me to it there, because that question, what do I need to do today? And then how do I never do it again?
Yeah.
That's probably one of the most powerful questions I've ever heard on this show, at least. I'll give you the opportunity to answer or give us another question at the end, but that one right there, I just want to highlight, because you're so right. If you're doing something that must be done by you, like, that's fine. But having that path and the awareness to work towards not doing it again is what's going to continue to scale your company. And in the beginning of the episode, that's what I said. You grew your company to this point, not you, the listener, and now you're stuck and you want to get past it. You can't do the same things that got you here. It's that continual growth mindset and asking of those questions that kind of eliminate those plateaus. I'm just curious to know, I mean, for you personally, give me an idea of your day at this point in time. What are the things that you're doing that you're, I would assume, working to get off your plate?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, get off my plate. So this goes into a deeper question, but I feel like there's a certain roles of a CEO, and I've learned these roles in the franchising side as we've scaled to 90 locations that I didn't know before. And I thought I was running a very effective business before, but now it's different. Number one is budgeting. A business has one goal: make profits, period. And if you're not doing that, you're doing something wrong. So as a CEO, you've got to be infinitely aware of the budget. Number two, and this is the big one, is strategic alignment of your team. So going along with that operational goal, the CEO sits down with his company once a year and says, what is our alignment for the year? Then we look at quarterly and say, how do we achieve that alignment on a quarterly basis? Then monthly, we have an alignment and say, what are we proud of that we got done last month? What do we want to get accomplished this month? In alignment with our quarterly and strategic goals of the year. And then we would do weekly syncs with our team that says, are we on track or off track? And Brandon, I promise you, this alone will create so much alignment and systems and operations for your company if you put this in there. And the reason why, and this is something I really didn't understand early on, is when you set out and you say, look, these are my personal ambitious goals, you set the cadence of energy for the company. And then somebody else on your team's like, Frank, man, I'm just not doing anything. And then they start to align and create really ambitious goals as well. And then that starts to happen as a flywheel. So like that he did it. Now this other guy that's looking up to him is like, well, I got to have ambitious goals. And another one, I got to have ambitious goals. So then these goals start to align, super ambitious, super driven without you even in that system. And then your company starts to look with these entrepreneurs at the different organizational structures and how they can improve within the system. So if we want to end on something, it's strategic alignment. How do we get the team to be aligned and to build their own vision through you setting the leadership and setting that strategic alignment for the whole company for the year? For Hello Sugar, this year is all about retention. So it's how do we increase retention at all levels? And as we looked at our quarterly alignments, it's like, oh, well, this falls into retention. We're building an app so we can have people easier book. Oh, this is a marketing effort that helps improve retention. Like we want to lower the cost of underarms, the number one upsell. So more people are finding value at Hello Sugar. And each one of our team members starts to apply these principles and align themselves and create cadences of growth that I could not even create on my own because they're focused on the alignment.
That was like a 3-minute how to grow your business masterclass. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, if more people did just that sequence of events that you just described, there would be no such thing as a stuck business. That is so powerful. I can't stress that enough. We get so stuck as business owners and CEOs just having meaningless meetings and not setting appropriate targets. It's your job to cast the vision and bring the team with you. Brigham, that was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I thank you for sharing your wisdom here. I put your website on the screen here. It's also in the show notes down below, wherever you're watching and listening. I don't know anything about Brazilian waxing. I know what it is. I have absolutely no idea what a sugar is, but I know a dude who knows business when I see him. And we have one right here with us today. So if you want to go check out maybe investing in a Hello Sugar franchise, it's down there below. And Brigham, where are you excited to bring this brand in the next 3 to 5 years for the listeners?
I'm actually heavily focused on the laser category. So right now we do wax and sugar, and we're positioning ourselves now as a hair removal company. And what's cool about Hello Sugar is you can start a salon for $60,000. It takes 2 months to get up and running. And the average profits on these salon suites are like 60 to 80 grand. They take 5 hours a week to run, and you can run multiple locations. Once they build into flagships, once you've proven the business model, it's about 150 to 300,000 to open up a larger storefront. And those things do between 150 to 250 profit per year. But you don't have to spend a year of your life building these in $300,000 without first testing it with a $60,000 modest investment. And that's what's really attractive about our business model. And I'm super excited about adding laser to our position in the next year.
That's awesome. I'm incredibly excited to follow your progress and see where you take this brand. I think it's on an amazing trajectory so far, and I can't wait to see what happens. I'll give you the opportunity. You can pass. You already gave us a million great questions to ask ourselves, but what is that powerful question that you would want the listener to walk away from this episode thinking about in order to get that powerful answer to grow their business?
Let's leave it with that one. I mean, diversity is sometimes the business killer. Focus is what keeps us strong. So how do I never do this task again?
I love that question. It's going to be my new favorite question. I love it. Brigham, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Brandon.
For those of you watching, listening, first and foremost, make sure you're subscribed so you keep getting this daily business advice. We want to move your business to the next level and get you past that hurdle as quickly as humanly possible. And also go check out the website. It's on the screen. It's in the show notes down below. Go check out what Hello Sugar is doing as a brand. If this episode gets 1 million downloads, I'll go get a Brazilian wax and I'll film the process too. I'm quite confident that's not going to happen, but surprise me, listeners. Let's see what we can do. We'll see you on the next episode of Harmonious at Lunch.